welcome along to the Invincible podcast. Not with my man Lee Judges, because he's on holiday at the moment in Dubai. He'll be back tomorrow. I was chatting to him. I said to myself, I don't want to bother him because he go, Robbie, I'm in the middle of getting me tan, right? So I want to see how dark he is when he comes back. So we brought in an able replacement, not just an able replacement, somebody who was on the show last week. And how I understand it, because I was away in Miami, he stole the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Julian's back.
Oh, I like that. I do like that introduction.
Heard you stole the show, man.
Well, I was allowed to speak, which was good, so I could elaborate on my opinions on various different Arsenal-related subjects.
Hold on, wait a minute. What do you mean? That sounds like a dig.
Not a dig.
You was allowed to speak. Is that a dig at me?
I would never, ever dare.
So who don't allow you to speak then?
Well, occasionally, mainly on starting 11 shows, I don't always get to finish my arguments, or there's various
You're carrying feelings.
There was various tactics and strategies employed, and especially at the last one when we spoke about international football, where you used your standard practice of just talking for as long as you can, and then said, right, we'll move on to the next subject.
So you are talking about me then?
Okay, a little bit.
So I brought you on the show out of the kindness of my heart now. I was saying to myself, you know what, he did well last week. I'm going to bring him back on now. And you come on immediately and start slagging me off.
Well, it's not slagging you off. It's just...
No, it is. You're having a dig.
No, I'm just highlighting the particular reason why last week's show was so good.
Because I weren't on it?
No, because I was allowed to speak for a bit longer.
But that's a dig.
No, it's not a dig. It's a positive for me. You know, I'm always into the positives.
No, listen, he ain't coming back, mate. I'll tell you, that's it. Right? How can you come onto someone's show and immediately he comes on digging me out like that?
Sorry, can I come back?
But no. In all seriousness, it's great to have you on. How have you been in the international break? You know what I mean? I know, listen, this guy has, me and him go to games together. We sit next to each other at a game. And I know you're mad passionate about Arsenal. Your whole life centres around Arsenal, right? When an international break's on, yet another one. We've been discussing this today. I mean, I know they have to happen because, you know, we've got the Euros coming up. Then you'll have World Cups and things like that. But it just seems like 3 international breaks before Christmas seems a little bit ridiculous to me. I don't know what you think. And it's just not the same, innit? It's not the same vibe.
Yeah, for me, and I've said this so many times, I'm not really a football fan. I'm an Arsenal fan. And football for me is only interesting when I love or hate a particular team. So I don't watch Barcelona against Real Madrid, not because I don't think it's a great game, because I do. It's an interesting game for most people. But for me, it's not interesting because I don't care who wins and loses. So I'll quite happily watch Spurs because I want to see them lose. And I take pleasure from seeing them lose in the same way as I take pleasure in watching Arsenal win. So the international break for me, especially this one, because I do have an affiliation with England, of course, and the England games were a dead rubber. So I didn't bother watching them. I had no interest. The only interest I've had actually was last night because I stayed up late to watch the Brazil-Argentina game. I then realised at 1 o'clock I didn't actually have any channels that had it on, so I watched it on one of those text commentaries on Sky Sports.
You watch it on a dodgy stream, didn't you?
No.
God, you can own up, man.
No. One of my previous works was in copyright enforcement, so I couldn't possibly be
So you
be
watched
doing that.
it on a text. What's that?
Well, it was on Sky Sports, so I put on to see what the team was.
Yeah.
My first interest was Jesus playing.
Listen, all 3 Arsenal players that were in the Brazil squad were playing.
Yeah.
Gabriel Magalhaes played, Gabriel Martinelli played, and Gabriel Jesus. The three Gabbies all played in the game.
Yep.
Jesus played the full 90, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I mean, I got excited.
I thought this man's injured, you know what I mean? He was playing the full 90.
Yeah.
How did was he in shape all right? Oh, but you didn't watch it, you just listened.
I saw it on the commentary. The first thing I got excited about was that he got booked after 5 minutes. This was
right.
Jesus, and I thought, great, he's going to get sent off, and then he'll be good for Arsenal. But he spent the whole 90 minutes there.
And they lost as well.
They lost, which I'm not that fussed about. And the other thing about that particular group, I'm not saying it's a dead rubber, but there's 10 teams in that league. Yeah. 6 have automatic qualification, and the 7th goes into a qualifying heat against what's probably going to be a second-rate international team. So it's almost pretty certain.
7th going to qualifying against the team from Australasia.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it could be like,
which normally a South American...
could be New Zealand, Australia, somebody like that.
But if Brazil were to come 7th, they're 6th at the moment, they're almost definitely going to get through on the qualifying round. So for me, yes, it's a World Cup qualifier and it's obviously important to Brazil and it's important that they beat Argentina. It's a local derby for them. But in the general schemes of things, for me, Arsenal's far more important. The only reason I watched it, or didn't watch it, but kind of kept abreast of it, was because of my worry for Jesus.
Thing is about it, right? You say it doesn't matter, but for a player like Jesus, for Martinelli, for Gabriel at the back, it does matter. That's the first game Brazil have ever lost at home. First qualification game they've ever lost at home. That was last night, ever, in a World Cup, when they're trying to qualify for a World Cup. They lost their last game against Colombia, which Martinelli scored in that game.
Yep.
But they lost that game. They've lost 3 on the bounce. Now, you say it doesn't matter as an Arsenal fan, but think about it. As a Brazil player, we want these guys returning on a high. They're now going to be returning to Arsenal on a bit of a low. They will be getting heavily criticised, that Brazilian team, especially Joe Linton. He got sent off in the game.
Yeah, I didn't think.
But they will be getting heavily criticised because the Brazilian media, when it comes to Brazil, I've witnessed it when I was at the World Cup in Qatar. They just assume they're going to win every single game, right? So these players are going to be returning back to us under some heavy, scathing criticism because they've lost those, they lost both international games. So I think it does matter for Arsenal. We want these guys returning feeling good. They're not going to be returning feeling good now because they last 2 games Brazil were poor.
Yeah, so there you go. It's even worse for Arsenal then. So if he hadn't been picked and he hadn't played, it'd be coming back a lot more positive than playing 90 minutes and they lost. And ultimately, what I meant when I said it didn't matter, it doesn't matter to me. I do respect...
Doesn't matter to you, but it matters as our players.
It matters to the players, but ultimately they're professionals, and when they come back to Arsenal in whatever shape, and hopefully good shape, both mentally and physically, then I would expect them to be able to forget about what's gone on in their international careers and come back and focus directly on Arsenal. Now, Jesus was injured for a month.
Yeah, and played the whole game.
He's played 90 minutes. Now, if he was playing for Arsenal, I'm pretty certain Arsenal would not have thrown him into 90 minutes worth of football straight away. That when he was injured for Arsenal, he was gradually, I think he came back against Fulham and he was brought on with about 15, 20 minutes to go. And that was it. And he was gradually reinserted back into the team. Now, Brazil, everyone looks after their own interest. Now, the reason why Brazil threw him straight in was because Brazil don't have another qualifier or a game of any meaning until 2024. So if he is going to pick up another injury, then he's almost definitely, unless it's an unbelievably serious injury, going to be back in time to play for them. Arsenal have more of his interests at heart because they need him every week.
Of course, and by him playing a full 90, I very much doubt now that he will play he won't start on Saturday. Hopefully he'll be in the squad. But, if you've been out for a month and you've had to play a full 90 in the Maracanã against Argentina, your deadliest rivals, really physical game. You could see it was kicking off in the stands big time.
It was kicking off on the pitch as well.
It was kicking off everywhere.
It was bookings and...
Yeah, right. That is an intense game. Then you've got to fly all the way back to England and then go to Brentford away, which is going to be another intense game, long throws, really physical team. I very much doubt that he's going to start. Martinelli played in that game. Gabriel played. They played the last 2 games as well. Saka, who's been playing for England, he's played the last 2 games. Came in at half-time in the first game on Friday. Played most of the game the other night. I'm just hoping that these guys are going to come back, in a real good condition because we've got a really important run of games coming up. And we need these guys in good shape. So the Gabriel Jesus playing 90 minutes, I'm a bit concerned about.
That is not good for Arsenal. It's just not good for him. I mean, I know if I haven't done a particular exercise, or any of us haven't done a particular exercise for a while, and then we exercise, how do you feel for the next few days? You're aching. You're not ready to go train again. You don't want to do anything too intense too quickly, and you can't get more intense than playing 90 minutes against Argentina when you're a Brazilian, and then having to fly back. So yes, I understand it's important for Brazil.
How long was that flight as well?
It's
You used to go to Brazil, didn't you?
Yeah, it's 11 hours.
11, and that's not a short flight. And I know people will be out there saying, well, they're flying first class, but it doesn't matter. It's still a long flight. You still got to wait in the airport, leave the airport. You know what I mean? You got to factor all that in as well. You still got that sort of time difference, jet lag. Even me, I was over in Miami last week. Got back last week Friday. I wouldn't say I've been massively jet lagged, but I felt a little bit tired, only just getting back into everything now. You know what I mean? So it does have an effect. It definitely does have an effect.
Yeah, so my interest is Arsenal. Jesus playing 90 minutes for Brazil in the early hours of a Thursday morning when he's got an important game on Saturday is just not good for Arsenal. So therefore, I'm not into it, because my love is Arsenal, not Brazil, especially now.
Well, listen, let's hope that they all come back in good condition. But yeah, it is a little bit worrying that he played all those minutes. The other thing in the international break, before we get into this week's game, which is against Brentford, the other thing about the international break I want to get your views on is all the sort of shenanigans around teams that have, may or may not have broken rules. Everton docked 10 points. I was shocked by that. I didn't think they'd get that amount of points docked. You know what I mean? You only get 9 points normally when you go into administration. They got 10, right? They've been docked 10 points. They've got teams like Leicester and that saying that they might appeal. Sorry, they might sue them as well, because, quite rightly, they're looking at, we stuck by the rules. We went down, Everton stayed up. It's all arisen again about Man City. They got facing 115 charges. Probably those charges are going to be heard maybe next year. What happens to them now if they're found guilty? What happens to Chelsea if they're found guilty? They're another team that, voluntarily, that's the same thing that Everton did, voluntarily told the Premier League that, they've broken rules. What could happen to them? What could happen to Tottenham? Tottenham also now drawn into this for a deal that they did regarding Jermaine Defoe back in 2008.
Yeah, 2007.
2008, where, there was some dodgy dealings allegedly between Tottenham and agents. What will happen to them? I mean, it's got mad recently over the international break, all of these things coming out.
Yeah, it's. I was really shocked by the Everton one. I didn't expect anything like that, because when you actually look at what they've done, it didn't seem so dramatic to me. Number one, as you said, they admitted it. They were very open with the Premier League. They didn't try and hide anything that they did. From what I understand, the rules are you can't lose more than 105 million over 3 seasons. They lost, or they went over that limit by 19.5 million. Yes, it's obviously exceeded it, but to then dock them 10 points, which is fine. If that's the rules, fine. But then what you're going to get is you've now got Man City, you've got Chelsea. On the face of it, what they've done is a whole lot worse. So if you've set that precedent, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you follow that precedent, which is generally what happens in legal matters, is that the first case becomes the precedent and then everything else kind of follows on from that case, is that you're going to get some unbelievably severe penalties. If you get unbelievably severe penalties, then what's going to happen is that leagues, cups, football is going to start being decided in a courtroom rather than on a football pitch. And I don't think that's going to be good for anyone.
Yeah, but if you broke the rules, too bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like in athletics, isn't it? When you got an athlete who, they won the 100 metres. Ben Johnson all those years ago, right? He won the 100 metres. He broke the world record, but it was later found out, it was, a couple of years, was it a couple of years later or about a year later, it was found out that he actually cheated. Might even have been the same year, but it's found out that he cheated, yeah? He was stripped of his world record, right? And he was stripped of the medal, and then they handed the medal to the person who comes silver. Who got silver, he got the gold, and silver got bronze, got silver, and so forth, yeah? That's just the consequences of you cheating. If Manchester City have broken the rules, and
115 of them,
115 charges, and this is allegedly, remember, they're not guilty of anything yet. It has to go to court. If Chelsea are guilty, I don't know how the ins and outs of the Chelsea one, but if the appropriate punishment, for me personally, when I look on it, if the appropriate punishment is points dropped, relegation, and those titles stripped away, obviously it's not great for the Premier League, but it has to happen. That's the only way you stop people from doing it in the future. That's the only way you protect the integrity of the Premier League. Yeah, you're right, it's not good for football, but we've seen, for instance, in Italy, Serie A, Juventus, who are the biggest team in Serie A, you know what I mean, they're like the Man United of Italian football. They got relegated down leagues, more than one league. They got, you know, titles stripped away for cheating. I think if they are guilty, I have no problem with the punishments. You wouldn't say, for instance, they handed Arsenal the title for last year. You don't want to win it that way.
No,
you really don't want to win it.
It's not really winning it.
Yeah, but I'll take it because they cheated.
I listened to Turkish yesterday, and I don't hear much stuff come out of his mouth that I agree with, but yesterday he was bang on, in as much as he wouldn't accept that as a championship win, because for him and for myself and for most fans, it's all about the memories, it's all about the moments. To then just look on a piece of paper and see Arsenal as champions in 2022-23 is pretty meaningless.
I'd take it.
But what are you actually taking?
Listen, it's meaningless.
You're taking a piece of paper.
You are taking a piece of paper. It is meaningless. Well, no, it's not meaningless because it'd be another title by our name, right? But at the end of the day, nobody wants to win it in that manner. But if City were guilty, and as I said, and I want to make this clear, at the moment, they're not guilty of anything until proven guilty, right? These are alleged things. And also, as I've said it many a times, I feel sorry. The only people I feel sorry for, if they were found guilty, would be their fans.
No.
No.
They've had enough of good times.
No, you know what? You know why you got to feel sorry for the fans, right? Because they haven't done anything wrong. All a fan does is you turn up to support your team, right? The fans have had no effect upon, you know, if any dodgy dealings have gone on and so. Or obviously, you know, we'd be the same if Arsenal had broken loads of rules and won titles, won Champions League, and that, we would be happy. We would be cock a hoop, right? And we wouldn't have done nothing wrong either. So you can't blame the fans for anything. Yeah. But if their clubs are guilty, they got to pay the price. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you think about it, right? And I've said this before. And I remember saying it, you know, I've said it when I was on the Overlap that time. And even I remember the next episode of the Overlap, I said it on one show and Gary Neville didn't really agree with me. And then the next episode, I remember when he came back and he said, you know what, I thought about what Robbie said in the last episode, right? And I actually understand where he's coming from now. Because I made the point that Arsenal, when they moved to the Emirates, how hard we had to work. How us as fans, remember?
Yeah.
When we moved into that stadium,
because we did it the right way.
Yeah, the first thing,
followed the rules.
Arsene Wenger said, guys, we're going to have some years of pain here. We're not going to be able to buy many players because we've got to pay for the stadium. And as a matter of fact, we started losing year in, year out, loads of our players, most of them to who to? Man City. Right? And we swallowed it up as fans. We took it. It's only after a while our patience started to run out and say, well, how long is this going to, you told us 5 years of pain. Now we're into the 8th year, 9th, 10th. You know what I mean? But we as fans understood. Arsene Wenger, year in, year out, you remember he came out famously and said, getting into the Champions League is like winning a title. Like winning a trophy, sorry. And we were all...
He said fourth place is a trophy.
Fourth place is a trophy. A lot of us got annoyed by that. Because we're like, hold on a minute. Fourth place... one second, let me just make my point, yeah? We're like, fourth place ain't a trophy. Fourth place is fourth place. But now, years after, you started to understand what he meant, because he was like, yo, fourth place for us is like a trophy because it brings in money that enables us to then go and get players, that enables us to keep this thing afloat. Because if we weren't getting fourth place, mate, you wouldn't even be able to see half of the players that you're seeing. So we were struggling to balance the book and to do things right. Meanwhile, allegedly, you've got clubs that are bending rules left, right and centre to pump money in under shell companies and things like that, or dodgy dealings to inflate their value so that they can beat FFP, so that they can buy our players and buy other players. And let's be real, great players and a great manager equals titles, Champions League, etc. If you got the money to go and get Pep Guardiola and all the best players in the world,
at what's it, 960,000 a week?
Exactly. You have got a great chance of winning the league. You've got a much better chance of winning the league than a team that's having to say, boy, you know, we've got to balance the book. Yeah, we're going to have to sell our best player to him and our best player to that. So let people remember that when they're thinking with sympathy about any sort of, sentences that may be handed down to teams that have bent the rules.
Okay, so the first thing I will address is why I don't feel sorry and I don't have any sympathy for Manchester City fans if the worst happens to them, that they would get relegated, they'd have all the trophies stripped from them. And the reason I don't feel sorry for them is because of the same reason that Turkish mentioned yesterday, of the positives of winning trophies, is the feelings and the memories. They've had those feelings and memories. You cannot strip those feelings and memories away from those fans. They've been there, they've experienced it, they've had it.
Yeah, but they'll feel empty after, innit? Because you imagine that, right? The Invincible season. No, Anfield 89, which I know you was at, yeah?
Yep.
And I know how many times you talk about that fondly. Your greatest ever memory.
Greatest moment of my life.
Yeah?
Greatest moment of my life.
Greatest moment of your life, right? Imagine if you heard, like, years after that, 10 years after that, that actually, you know what, Arsenal have been stripped of that because they were actually done for cheating.
Well, there was a rumour at the time, it's started by Spurs fans, that Grobbelaar took a bung and jumped out the way when Thomas was...
I actually met Bruce Grobbelaar last week, right? And I said, remember 89? And he just ignored me when I said that. But I tell you, he was a nice guy, actually.
Yeah, he didn't jump out the way.
Yeah.
And the difference is, Arsenal won that league title, and they did it the right way.
What if you heard years after that actually, they cheated? There was some shenanigans that have gone on, that they cheated to win that game, or maybe the game was thrown. Even though you still got that memory, you're going to feel a bit empty, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I just
because
can't,
it's going to be
because I'll always look back. It would be my selective memory of it, and I wouldn't allow myself to.
Yeah, but you look back and you say, like you go and you boast to people and say, "Oh man, I was there, Anfield '89, my greatest ever memory," and then you're saying that to someone, and they say, "Yeah, but you lot cheated, though, bloody bunch of cheats, man. You got done for that, got stripped away for that title." That all of a sudden, that memory becomes a little bit hollow. It's like
I wouldn't say hollow. Maybe slightly shaded, but that would be it. I would still always have the memories of what happened that night, of the championships that I've seen, and Man City fans will always have that. And here's the flip side to that: if they are found guilty, even if they're not found guilty, the reality is Manchester City were not a great team before the investment that went in there. Whether they've cheated or not, the reason Man City, it was no coincidence that when they arrived, Man City, not even gradually, within literally a few seasons, were starting to challenge for top four. Before that, they were relegation. They were a yo-yo team. They're actually in the third tier of English football a few seasons before. I think at the turn of the century, maybe even earlier than that. The reason why they have had the success, regardless of whether they've cheated or not, is because of the investment that went in. So those fans have enjoyed those experiences because of the fact the money's gone in.
They have, but
and that's why I don't feel sorry for them, because they wouldn't have had those experiences.
But then if somebody
they'd still be losing to Oldham.
Yeah, but if somebody's then going like, a Man City fan
York, I think they lost to.
Goes to a Man United fan and says, listen, we've won them title at X amount of times. We did the treble, right? Which you did the treble, and we've equalled that. And then a United fan turns around to him and says, asterisk treble.
Yep.
Asterisk treble, because it's been proven that you did this and you did that, and that takes away. I'm sorry, it does. No, you may still have that memory, but your memory has been tarnished. Yeah. It's a very important time for teams like that.
It is. Look, it takes away some of the excitement, some of the experience, but it'll be taking away an experience that they should have never had in the first place, and that's why I don't feel sorry for them.
Yeah, no, I feel sorry for the fans. Because they ain't done nothing wrong, Julian.
Yeah, but then they've enjoyed the successes. They've had the successes, and a lot of them are probably only there because of the successes.
No, but you can't help it that your team's suddenly got loads of money and have gone and bought players and stuff like that.
But they've enjoyed. They've had the benefits.
Yeah, they've had the benefits. But I'm saying I'd feel sorry for them, because then their memories would be ruined, because of the owners or the people that were doing the business around their club.
Yeah, still not sorry for them.
I'm not sure if I feel sorry for Chelsea at all.
Yeah. Are you going to feel sorry for Tottenham fans if something happens to them?
100% not.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, they're talking about pulling that back to 2008.
Yeah.
That is a long time to go back.
It is. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, that is a long time to go back. But hey,
and if it wasn't Spurs, I might want to argue against that going back. So,
however, in athletics again, they do that. I remember, was it that 100 meters runner, female one, Flojo?
Yeah.
Remember Flojo, Florence Griffith Joyner? They went way back and stripped her. I think she'd even passed away, and they stripped of the medals that she won because they found out that she was running doped up, and at the time she was the golden girl of athletics. So they do it in other sports.
Yeah.
But
in law, there's a statute of limitations, which means you can only go back so far. So with UEFA, the reasons why the charges were dropped against Man City wasn't the fact that they were found innocent. It was the fact that the purported crimes were committed too long ago, out of time.
Yeah.
So surely the Premier League
League don't have that statute though, and that's the thing, and that's why they're
then how far?
That's why they're bringing these charges against Man City, because they don't have that time limit like what they UEFA have.
Okay.
So that's why they're still able to say, well, hold on, you need to answer these things.
So then I would say that Arsenal have been quite lucky, in as much as the Premier League weren't around when Norris was around, and he bribed the Liverpool chairman to keep us in the first division.
You're talking about going back into like before the war.
But if there's no statute of limitations,
that was before the Second World War. Man. You can't give us a.
I think it was about 19. It was in the early 1900s. I'd be guessing.
Before the Second World War.
Yeah, it was before the First World War, I think.
Before the First World War, you can't go that far back. Come on.
No, but if there's no statute of limitations, that means you can go back as far as you want. That's why I believe there should be a statute of limitations. You can only go back so far. Well, that would be the question. For me, it would be 10 years, because what you're doing, you're punishing a previous regime. You're punishing the current regime for the previous regime's crimes. So there's got to be something there. Well, but I think we should at least keep these rules in till we shouldn't go back beyond 2008.
Yeah.
So
we'll see how it pans
Spurs
out.
Are guilty.
We see how it pans out. There's a lot of nervous fans and owners of certain clubs around at the moment. The City one probably won't be heard till next year. The Chelsea one, I'm not sure when that's going to be heard.
The other thing about the City one that I don't quite understand, there's 115 different charges, but you can split them into about 5 different categories. And one of them is, in effect, making it very difficult for the Premier League to investigate. They're being obstructive. Now, if they just divided things up into the different sections, and the first one, which in my mind, and I'm not a lawyer, but I have worked in the legal field, is that you go for the simplest one. So the simplest one is, if you're obstructing justice, if you're not if you're obstructing that investigation, surely that's not that difficult to prove or disprove. So you do them in sections.
Yeah, but actually, if you look at the way the law works, like say when they're bringing a big case, like, one of them big mafia things, like they just had one this week in Italy, Drangheta. What they bought, they've been bringing that for 2 years. They got loads of charges, right? But what they want to do is they want to accumulate them up, and then they want to do all of them along, and then at the end, bang, you're gone, whopping sentence. So
yeah, but
maybe it's a similar
that might
thing.
Not work. Maybe it would be more.
It could be innocent.
It might be more effective to go for the first one. Do them in the sections. So hit them for the first one, and then they might be a little bit more compliant.
I don't think so, mate. Man City have got more lawyers than the charges, you know what I mean? So it's going to drag on that. It's going to drag on and on. In the meantime, we can't use that. We've got to beat what's in front of us. And we've got some serious games coming up now. No more international breaks between now and Christmas, or should I say now and the New Year. Just straight Premier League games all the way through. Lots of them as well. Starting off with this weekend, going away to Brentford. We played Brentford earlier on in the season in the League Cup. Got a good win in that game, even though we had a much changed team. Made more changes than they did. They went with a pretty strong team that day, didn't they? It was
a tight game. Could have gone either way, that one.
Right. But we won the game. We beat them very easily last year. At their place.
3-0.
How do you think it's going to go this time around? I mean, straight off the back of an international break, going to Brentford away, Saturday night, 5:30 kickoff UK time, hostile atmosphere. Well,
no, it's not hostile.
Right, it's not hostile.
It's not hostile.
Brentford's not hostile, but
it's lovely.
It's a great noise in the stadium.
It's noisy,
great little stadium.
It's supportive.
Yeah, and
positive.
You know that them as a team, they're going to put it on us, right? Because they're a physical team. They're a team that there's lots of long throws into the box. They're very direct. They're all about soaking it up and then catching you on the counter-attack, which they're absolutely brilliant at. And like you said, we could have a couple of jaded players in the team, possibly. What do you think?
Well, so when I see that we're playing Brentford, my automatic reaction is that we'll win easily because it's only Brentford. And I always think, and it's an arrogant thought, that we are Arsenal, we're one of the best teams in the world, and they're just a little team in West London that have recently been promoted, and they've not got so many resources, and they've got a small stadium. Everything about them is small and friendly, so we should walk over them. And then I start looking at their results, and I start looking at their results against the top six, and I was really shocked. I saw last season, they played all the top six. They only lost to Liverpool and Man United away by, I think, 1 goal, and us 3-0. They beat every single other top six team at least once, other than us, and they did the double over Man City. I mean, I saw an interview with Thomas Frank and Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports, and he was discussing, how he plays against and why he's got such a good record against the top six. And even this season, he's beaten Chelsea. And then I thought, okay, well, they've just got hammered by Liverpool. And then I watched the Liverpool-Brentford game again last night on Match of the Day. And they were a bit unlucky. That particular result doesn't really reflect how good they were.
Remember they played Man United? Man United was like last gasp.
They were losing up to
they were losing 1-0. And then United brought on McTominay.
Yeah,
and he came on and scored twice in injury time. But I'm telling you, he was a bit against the run of play that game. Well, not against the run of play because they had a real low block in. But, they nearly got a victory in that game at Old Trafford. They are a plucky little team.
Yeah.
With some good players like Mbeumo, Wissa, these guys, Janssen. They are, if you're not on it, it's one of their teams. I know there's a lot of teams like this in the Premier League, but they're one team in particular that if you're not on it, they will exploit the weakness and they will take it to Arsenal. Are going to have to be really, really on it and really, really well organised to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be top of our game. And the other part is, and the reason why I could see that they lost to Liverpool was something that they're not usually guilty of, that they weren't very efficient in front of goal.
Yeah, they've been missing a lot of chances.
But if you
Tony.
But if you look at how they played against Chelsea, that they had a lot less chances against Chelsea, but when they got the chances, they scored. They had a similar amount of shots against Liverpool and hardly any on target. So if they're off it, then then we can exploit it. But we have to be top of our game. I mean, that first away game after COVID, I still have nightmares about that.
Oh, gosh, which was Brentford, of course,
that Friday night.
The one thing I would say about that game is, like, every time we look back at that game, is we were very depleted on that night.
We were. We had COVID on the day, didn't they?
Yeah, we were very depleted and we went into that game a very depleted squad. I feel this time now, and one thing I've noticed about Arsenal, particularly away from home, I know we lost to Newcastle, but we're very resilient away from home. You know what I mean? We're not a team that can just be... That night we got bullied in that game.
And things have changed since then.
Things have changed. I'm not seeing any team this season bully Arsenal. I see Newcastle tried to do it.
Yeah.
They tried to bully Arsenal. Can't do it. There's too many players in there now that are up for that. In particular, a player like a Declan Rice. You're not going to come bully Arsenal off the pitch. Even Arsenal in that game in the League Cup, again, they really put it on us in the second half. Arsenal stood up to it. Gabriel, I remember in that game, was excellent. So I fully expect Arsenal to win this game. I mean, it's going to be tough. You've got to have full, and I know Arsenal will have full respect for Brentford, because we know how tough it's going to be. But I feel that if Arsenal go there, play to how we've been playing this season, I can see us getting a win. I really can. It'd be interesting to see who's going to start.
Yeah.
Especially up front. If Eddie's fit, do you bring Eddie back in or do you start with Trossard?
I'd do neither. I'd put Martinelli in there and still keep Trossard. Maybe interchange them a little bit more. I mean, I saw Martinelli, the highlights of the game where he scored, and it kind of brought something back to me, is that his finishing is excellent, probably better than Jesus' finishing. His timing of his runs is excellent. If you look at his last season's stats, I think he scored 15, which is a good return for a winger. But actually, if you look at his expected goals, it was only 9.3, and he's overachieving massively because of his finishing, and also the fact that he has this, I don't know whether it's learnt and practice, probably a bit of both, or natural ability of timing those runs. I think he's a natural striker.
Yeah, I wouldn't start him as a striker though.
I'd mix it up, because one of the things is that Thomas Frank will be expecting him to play on the wing. So if you put him up front, they're just catch him a little bit cold.
By the way, you know what? I was just thinking of something you said. You said earlier that you only followed the game on text.
Yeah.
But then you said you've seen the Joe Linton sending off.
Yeah.
I saw it and it weren't a sending off.
Yeah. I watched the highlights this morning. What? Isn't that...
He's about as honest as Man City, isn't he?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Allegedly, sorry.
I didn't watch an illegal stream. I'm far too honest for that.
Where did you watch it then?
What?
You watched what?
It was the highlights were on Sky Sports. Check it out. If you don't believe me, look at the evidence.
And a VAR now.
And there's no 115 charges. There's one charge of which I'm innocent.
All right. What do you think then? What do you think the outcome will be of that game?
I always think Arsenal are going to win, but I do have massive respect for Brentford. I was looking back at some of my earlier interviews, and I actually you were really pushing me. It was just after we went out. I think it was still during lockdown. And it was all the height of Arteta out was going on, and you asked me a question of who would you replace Arteta with, and I was trying to kind of battle back, saying, look, I don't want to replace him, let's keep him. I think it's when I came out with, you've got to give him a chance, and then you kind of carried on and pushed, and in the end I actually came out with Thomas Frank, and I think that manager is tremendous. He's really brilliant. Look, Pep is a great manager, but when you've got all those billions behind you, it's going to be a lot easier to win the league. But when you're at a club like Brentford, to do what he's doing, even at the moment, the performances have been criticised. They're still mid-table, with a 17,500 seater stadium. I think what that guy's done, and it's not just one season wonder, brilliant. So we got to be top of our game.
Incredible. When I run through the games, Julian, this is between now and the new year, every single game, right? This is what Arsenal face, right? So obviously Brentford away Saturday.
Yeah.
Then on Wednesday of next week, we've got Lens at home.
Yeah.
If we win that, we top the group and we're through the Champions League. If we don't, still got another chance to top the group the following week when we play PSV. But Lens, so we're looking good in the Champions League, should qualify.
We're pretty much qualified already.
We've got
to beat Lens or
a draw with Lens would certify it. 2nd of December, Saturday 2nd of December, Arsenal versus Wolves at home. Then on the Tuesday, a couple of days later, we go away to Luton. Then on the 9th of December, away to Aston Villa. That won't be easy. That's a very tough place to go to. Away at PSV on Tuesday, the 12th of December.
Hopefully that'll be a dead rubber for us.
Hopefully that'll be a dead rubber. And then we're at home to Brighton. Now, people might say, well, we're home to Brighton, but we've had a poor record against Brighton at home over the past couple of seasons. We've lost both of those games. Then on the 23rd of December, just before Christmas, a visit to Anfield.
That's the big one.
And I understand that the Scousers have got a Christmas party they want to invite you to when you get up there. By the way, you'll be going to on your own. I won't be coming with you, right? But the Scousers have informed me that
they've always been very friendly when I've been up there. Even in '89, they were really friendly.
Yeah, well, that was
it's a great place. I love Liverpool.
That was before what you said about people from Liverpool. They will be welcoming you up there. And then Thursday, the 28th of December, a home game against West Ham. And then we finish off the year by going away to Fulham on New Year's Eve. When you look at that run of games, number one, what do you think of that run of games? And then also, where do you think we could be around about Christmas? Because once we get to Christmas time, that's always a good indicator of who's going to be challenging for the league, There's a lot of talk sometimes that if you're top at Christmas, which we were last year, right, that you're going to win the league. But it's certainly you're going to be in contention to win the league if you're top or in and around that at Christmas. Run of games there. Do you expect Arsenal to be right up there come those end of those games at Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first looked at it, I thought that's a really easy run of games.
No.
And then I looked a bit closer and I saw Villa was an away game. I thought it was a home game, but it's an away game. I think Villa could be tricky. I mean, you look at most of those, we should win. Wolves at home. We should absolutely win that. My biggest concern of Luton away is getting a ticket. That's about it. I have no other concerns with Luton. What are the ones? I mean,
the Villa away. It's the Villa away games going up to Christmas. It's Villa away,
Brighton
at home, Liverpool away. I mean, that's And
I think
tough.
I'm still confident. As an Arsenal fan, you have to be confident you're going to beat Brighton at home, regardless of what's happened over the last few seasons. You've got to be confident that we're going to beat Brighton at home. We are a bigger, better team. A more on form team than them. They're a mid-table team.
They've got a lot of injuries at the moment.
They've got a lot of injuries.
At the moment.
They're mid-table. Yes, they've had a good result.
They're a good side with a good manager and a good record at the Emirates.
They're good.
They played us off the park last season. Remember?
We were at our lowest. We really were. They caught us. They caught us at our lowest.
The season before they didn't catch us at a low. I think even the season before that was a draw. they've become a real bogey team for us at home. They seem to. They come to the Emirates without no fear. That'll be those 3 games.
It's
Brighton at home. Aston Villa away, Brighton at home, Liverpool away. Those 3 games, 9 points just before Christmas. That is a tough little period.
Yeah, if we get 6 points out of those 9, then I'd be happy with that. But the issue we've got when we're in effect competing against a team like Manchester City is that sometimes 6 out of 9 isn't good enough. You're almost expected to win every single game. I mean, this is Manchester City are a team that I've never seen as good a team in the whole time that I've watched football as them. So you can't, maybe to get 6 out of 9 and have won all the rest might not be good enough, because City are quite capable just winning everything.
Where do you think we'll sit after that run of games?
I think we'll be first or second, probably second. I haven't looked at City's fixtures yet, running up to it.
They've got a few difficult ones as well, but it's a tough run. It's a tough run of games.
Everything's tough. The Premier League's the greatest league in the world. It's got the most money coming into it.
I think the key is the squad. It's got to stay fit. Got to Jesus when he comes back now. We need him fit till the end of the season.
Yeah.
Guy's injured too much.
And Partey, he's crucial, but can we rely on him?
I feel like I've given up on Partey,
But he's still a world-class player when he's fit.
He's a world-class player when he's fit.
Yeah, but he's not fit. He's as useful as I am at the moment for Arsenal. Probably less useful. I'll cost him less. But I'll contribute.
Oh, that's a good one. But yeah, it's a tough little run of games, but there's games in there that Arsenal could win. And I think if they can overcome that run, then when they start to get into the new year, go away to Fulham. Shortly after that, we've got Liverpool at home at Anfield. Liverpool at home at the Emirates. West Ham. It's critical. This Christmas period.
It's always critical. The whole season's going to be critical. The end of the season, hopefully, will be the most critical, because we'll be challenging by then.
Who'll be a key player for you in this little period?
Martinelli. Really, I just think with his pace and the form and his finishing ability, and he also injects enthusiasm into the team as well, is that I've seen it when he, little things, well, it's not even little, that he'll chase back, he'll do something that maybe you don't think is his strength. He's not on the pitch. I remember people used to sort of defend Ozil about not tracking back, say, well, that's not his job. Well, technically it is. And what Martinelli does is not only does he track back, but he runs back with the same enthusiasm and the same intensity as if he's running for a goal, because he's a team player. And that it's infectious. Because when he has that mentality, he can't. I've seen Odegaard go round. He's trying to get the crowd up, which is good. Zinchenko does something similar, but the most effective way to get the crowd up and cheering is do what Martinelli does. One of those dashing back and really putting it in. Yeah. And I love the guy.
Yeah, I think Declan Rice probably key player as well for me. Since he's come in, he's been absolutely brilliant. And as I said, I'm looking at them tough games away, like Liverpool away, Villa away. Those are the games where you need a Declan Rice on form in there.
You need them all on form.
You go to Anfield, you've all got to be on form. We saw last year, but a player that's got a bit of oomph in him, and that little combination between him and Jorginho, by the way, has been serving him well. And we're talking about players who are coming back on a bit of a low in the Brazilian boys. Players like Declan Rice, players like Jorginho, they're going to be a bit of a high. They've qualified for the Euros. They played, but Saka as well. So
I'd still rather them have kept at Colney and stayed all wrapped up in cotton wool.
Listen, half of our players seem to get injured in training anyway, so don't. It doesn't matter. So, did you give me a prediction for the Brentford game? You didn't?
No, I didn't.
Let's have it.
I think it'd be close, but I think it'd be 3-1 or 3-2. I think we'll get a few goals, but we may well concede one.
3-2. I like the 3-2. I like the 3-2. I could see that as a possibility, but I do think we'll get the job done.
And we've got Ramsdale in goal.
Ramsdale's in goal. Yes, Ramsdale's in goal because Raya can't play because of the rules about loaning a player from another club.
Premier League rules.
Yeah. So Raya will not play. Ramsdale will be in goal.
Unless he picks Hine.
That'll please his dad after the comments his dad made the other day about, obviously they're very unhappy that he's not in the team. This is a big chance. But then if he plays well, will Mikel play him the next game? That's the thing. I think he should. I think personally, I'd like to see Ramsdale back in goal. I don't know what you think.
As a personality,
shot stopping, kicking.
I mean, as a personality, yes, I like him. I like his dad.
His dad's a great guy.
But if it was, look, if it was done on popularity, I'd put myself in goal. But it's done on
but
what's
nobody
best.
Else would.
No, but I'm talking about. you asked me for my opinion. So it's not done on popularity. It's done on who's the better keeper.
Yeah, but I think he's a better keeper.
I think all round the way.
What's he done wrong?
Well, you can look back at. You can say he's made mistakes, and
every keeper does.
But maybe he's made more mistakes than Raya.
Premier League Player of the Year last year.
Yeah, if you look at the interview, people have said that one of the reasons Arteta dropped him was he did an interview with Ian Wright where he said something along the lines that he can't concentrate for 90 minutes. He can only concentrate for a few minutes, and that's why he kind of banters with the crowd. And yes, he's popular, and I think he's a great goalkeeper. But if I had to pick between the two, at the moment, Raya, from what he's done, I haven't seen as much of him. I haven't seen as much of him, but I'd pick Raya marginally. And league championships can be decided on marginal.
Ramsdale. Yeah, true. But I pick Ramsdale. Yeah. He's never let us down. Yes, of course he's made mistakes.
But it's not.
Then some of the outstanding saves he's made, his character.
Yeah, he's got great character. I'm not saying he's a bad goalkeeper. I think he's an excellent goalkeeper, and he's unfortunate in as much as he can only play one position, and Raya gets the nod. Whereas, unlike myself, I've managed to play two positions last few weeks. I played you last week, and today I'm playing Lee.
Well, you won't be playing that next week because Lee will be back. But Julian, I've got to say,
and so will you.
And I will be back.
So I'll be back on the bench with Ramsdale.
I've got to say, you've been brilliant.
Thanks.
You've been brilliant today, and you were brilliant the other day. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I love when you come on and you spit your opinions. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you for letting me speak.
No, I'd kind of forgotten that, but now you ain't come. I was going to say we'll have you back on very soon, but
that's me.
No, that's it. Gone. That's the death knell now. Yeah, I mean, he's gone. Right? But no, it's great to have you on. You'll be back in. Oh no, we'll be at the game on Saturday. Yeah. So we'll be at the game on Saturday.
Back for
Brentford.
Lons.
We'll be back for Lons.
On starting 11, unless I'm axed.
Starting 11. You may be axed.
Right.
But yeah, we'll be at the game on Saturday. Really, really looking forward to it. Arsenal taking on Brentford. 5:30 kickoff. Don't forget, AFTV are going to be there. We'll be at the game speaking to fans afterwards. And also we'll be here in the studio. We've got our fan zone going on where you can call in after the game and let your opinions be heard. So I want to hear from as many of you as possible. To access that, you've got to go to our app, AFTV Plus. Download that right now and get the app and be ready for Saturday when we have that game featured here on AFTV. Looking forward to it. Julian, once again, thank you very much. Thank you to you guys out there listening. Don't forget this podcast available on all your regular formats, so make sure you check it out. And we're going to be back next week. Lee will be back in the building. The Lobster will be here right after his suntanning mission down in Dubai. I saw it was raining a lot down there actually, right? Looking forward to having him back in. But Julian, thank you very much. Pleasure. And we'll see you next week. The Invincible podcast. Myself, Robbie, and Lee Judges come together once a week to discuss all things Arsenal. Straight talking, considered discussion, brought to you by the fans of the only club in Football League history to go invincible.